What's up, YouTube? This is probably the sexiest marketing topic ever. We're going to be showing you how to create a high-ticket funnel in this video. I'm going to actually show you ours behind the scenes. I'm going to show you all the ads, the landing pages, what we actually do, the methodology, how we came up with it, numbers, so that way you can really model it and create your own networks. And you'll see when you do this right, you don't really need a lot of people to hit really, really big numbers. In fact, I think we had 366 email leads in our last business when we hit our first $50,000 month. So when you do this right, a really well done high ticket funnel will bring you the right people on a silver platter and just be really, really amazing for you. So I'm going to take you through now our whole process of how we create that. And before you even begin, before you write a single web page or create a single offer or piece of copy, and this is not where most people begin, and it's common sense, but it's not common practice, is right here going, "What you want, bitch?" And you need to know what people really want. And it helps if, by the way, if you don't call your customers a bitch, um, but really dialing in and listening to your market. And the simplest hack I can give you is to really just go into spaces where your people are and listen to their conversations and see where they get stuck and see where their questions, problems, and challenges. You need to know that information before you create a single page, because if you create, hey, I created this product or this service, and then go out in the world and try and sell it, you're doing it backwards, and you'll just make it 1,000 times harder on yourself. So yeah, you need to know what do you want. By the way, if you've ever been in a relationship, unfortunately for you, you've seen this movie. My last girlfriend used to cry in this movie. True story. And this whole process allows you to be Aladdin. Now, the next thing you need to know is you need to gather the proof that your solution works, because so here's an example of one of ours, by the way. I don't know why this Amazon thing's popping up in the background. So this was somebody at our last event. They signed up 4 clients. Each of those was for 12,000. So I mean, that's a $48,000 event. Plus, I think she signed them up in the next like 2 or 3 days. So it was like, a 50 grand almost in 4 days. It's a pretty good week. Now, sometimes when you're doing this, I hear from a lot of people, well, I don't have, a $50,000 case study or anything like that. And you don't necessarily need to. You need to just have proof that your methodology works. So to give you an example, let's say, for example, the secret of your weight loss is that you teach people a raw food diet. Now, you may not have 0 clients and 0 proof and 0 case studies, but you can find proof out there that what you're saying, that a raw food diet works. And so you don't want to be unethical and say, this is what I've done for people, but you can show people the benefits. And the reason you want to do this, I found this when I was in the lawyer market. I would go into a space and I remember I would read all these things, and they were like 7 ways to tweet and 12 ways to blog. And if you had followed the advice of all these posts, you wouldn't actually end up getting clients, and it would just create more work for you. So the proof element is showing to people that what you're doing really cuts through the bullshit, and it brings them to what works. So I'm going to show you just a couple of ours that we actually use. And of course, you can use whatever you want. I just use the ones from our Facebook group because they're really easy for me to grab. This is Thomas. He signed up to recurring $100,000 per year clients. That should say recurring, but he can't spell. As well as Dan, who went through and just decided to work with the 1% he could really help, and post this in our group of a couple of days ago about almost a $500,000 contract he just signed. Good for him. And doing this and so our shtick is doing this in a way that's or helping create purpose. And you also want to create, by the way, not just proof that what you're saying works, but that if people don't follow it, that life gets really bad. So here's an example of what we do is when somebody doesn't find their purpose, is just a meaninglessness they experience. I don't know what my passion is. Life has no meaning. There's like a gazillion results in Google for this. And should I die if my life has no meaning? So this is like how people really, really feel on our specific topic. And this is all the research we've done as well as the proof. So all of this happens before you even write a single line of code. Now, the first piece, and by the way, this wasn't the first piece we created. The actual landing page, which I'm going to show you next, is the first piece. But the first step on the funnel is our ads or any sort of content. And I used to be really heavy on Facebook ads. I still run a lot of Facebook ads, but in the meantime, we also have other sources of traffic, because if it works when you get it working, when you understand the people behind this, you can do this in a lot of places. So our typical person is successful but feeling unfulfilled. They're looking for more meaning. So that's what our ads are about. I also do, as part of our treatment, we do psychedelics. Can't really advertise psychedelics, so I do that with imagery. And you can see this ad got 437 likes. We've got a whole bunch of ads. This is just probably one of the bigger ones that we're doing. And I just wanted to show you this really quickly, but important to understand, the success measure here isn't this 437 likes. Doesn't really matter if people like your ad. I think we're getting $5 leads on that one, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the actual numbers of where they're at right now. With this specific landing page that I'm about to show you. So we've had 4,539 people visit it, 1,222 actually sign up, a 7% conversion rate. Typically what you want to look for in this part is anything above 20. So I'm going to show you the actual landing page that we're using. And again, you don't have to do a whole lot. In fact, I find the simpler it is, the better. So this is just grab our free training, register. That's it. That's the whole landing page. There's not really a whole lot to it. In fact, if I was to redo this, I would probably even take out some of this text and make it even shorter. But 27%, good enough to hit our things. Now, I just want to add a word of note here. There's this whole idea of funnel hacking, Russell Brunson. To be honest, at least the way it's done in practice, probably not the way Russell intended it. It's a horrible, horrible fucking idea, and don't do it. Don't. You're just pissed. For one, you're going to piss away money, because you can't totally copy somebody else, their personality, their know-how, their knowledge. Even if you literally copy the words on the page, it ends up watering it down for both of you. And I've never seen anybody successful stealing it. So don't steal my shit. Not just because I wouldn't like it, but because you won't like it. You won't get the same results that I will, being a raccoon thief here, because you were born an original. Don't die a copy. And if you do, I'm going to have this guy sentence you to 3 years in jail for stealing his nose. So this is what happens after somebody registers. They get this free training. It's a 39-minute video, and it goes over all those kind of proof elements. And as well, it focuses really on shifting people's paradigms. Because what you'll find is when you do this is that, when people want to achieve a certain goal or outcome in their life, and they're experiencing blockages or things that are not working or whatever, resistance along that path, is there's almost always an unhelpful assumption. And so part of what I'm doing is showing them proof that our methodology works, but I'm also helping them shift their unhelpful assumptions. And we do that in the form of just showing them, the 5 things they really need to know, or the 3 things, or the 10 things, or whatever that is for you. So next, after this, when they sign up, obviously they get this free training immediately. And you'll notice, by the way, the only software I'm using to do this is Lead Pages. There used to be a time where I had, a lot of those pre-recorded, quote unquote, live webinars. And the reason why we're not doing that right now is really, really simple, is because I think everybody's doing it. And so sometimes when everybody's doing something, it helps to zig where they zag, or zag where they zig. And so I wanted this just to be simpler, where somebody could consume it right away, speed ahead if they wanted to, specifically for, people who just don't have time to waste on bullshit. And so then what happens is people get into our autoresponder sequence. Now, this is really interesting, is we email people every day. And if you're not used to this, this will be pretty intense, because you'll have way higher than normal unsubscribe rates, but you'll also have way higher than normal applications and sales. And the reason for that is because it's polarizing, right? So the people who are kind of lukewarm on you, you push them away kind of quickly. But the people who are your fans, it bonds them to you really quickly. And there's some people who just will read every word of what you say and can't get enough of what you have to say and love your stuff. So it's really those people you want to write for. And I'll show you the numbers in a second of what this is going for. The methodology that we're using is really, really simple, so that you can model this as well. In the first 30 days, I focus heavily on the reason they signed up. So it's all really proof elements predominantly, hey, our methodology works. Hey, we can help you. After that point, after the 30-day mark, it's more Seinfeldy, where I tell stories, talk about life, just share ideas, beliefs, cool things we've been up to. It's way, way less salesy. So in the first 30 days, it's very, very specific on showing you, that we can help you with the problem you signed up with. And if they don't immediately do that, we continue to stay on top of you, but in a very different way. It's more fun. And the one piece of advice I could give you in this is write exactly like you talk. Like I got an email, it's freedom. I mentioned, Braveheart, my favorite movie, and all kinds of things like that. So you want to like be 1,000% you. And the whole idea with this is you're watering your list. Now, in the beginning, you probably feel like Homer Simpson doing this, but what you'll actually be doing is watering plants. And statistically, 3 to 5% of people who registered for your free training will be ready to go right then and there, and you can make a giant living off of those. But there's also like 95% that for whatever reason just need time. And so I like to think of it as watering plants. You just sending an email every day is watering your plants and building a relationship, especially when you're giving value and sharing your personality and so forth. Now, all of those emails and all of those trainings all point to this page, which is where they can book a time to talk with us to get basically a clarity session. And then at the end of that, if we feel that we can help them, then, we make them an offer to work with us. And if we don't, we just point them in the right direction and I think there's really good karma in doing that, by the way, is not trying to sell everybody, but just legitimately pointing people to the best solution. And then that's you, wholeheartedly really selling what you do, but doing that from a place of integrity, honesty. Now, the next piece, right after they register, this is kind of like our proof page. So we get a little bit more info about them, like why do they want to book this call? What are your challenges? What are you ready to do? Or do you think we're a fit? And then it has a whole bunch of, like testimonials, details about our methodology, what we do, people we've helped. Some of these you've already seen, where we host our retreats, and then the free training. And then there's just a little blurb about me and some cool psychedelic imagery because I like it. It's not really a bigger, deeper reason than that. So that's what happens after they register. Now, just to show you the numbers, so far we've had 84 bookings. And these are, by the way, people who filled out this. Only about half the people actually take the second step and fill out this, but we still get on the calls even with people who don't. So the actual number of people who booked from that original, 1,222 is probably double this, 168-ish, not exactly, but in that number. So that's a pretty healthy conversion rate, meaning, more than 10% of people, maybe like 12% of people who get on our list book a call with us. So that means for 50 or for $5 a lead, for every $60 we spend, we get somebody on the phone, which when you have, a high ticket sale, which is, for anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 for most people, although I've seen 25,000, 250,000. I've even seen multi-million-dollar high-ticket sales. But in our particular case, we're talking about an $8,000 sale, an amazing kind of retreat and coaching package. So at $60 a lead, that goes a long way. Now, one thing I want to really brief you on that nobody really talks about, but this is just the honest truth in working in this space. So when you actually get people to get onto your list and now they're booking a call with you and you're going to have a call with them, nobody tells you that your first calls are more than likely going to go like this. You're going to say, hey, do you want what we're selling? They're going to be like, God, no. Steve Carell does that pretty angrily. And you're going to hear probably more no's than yeses. And the reason I show you this is not to be discouraged. Oh, the sassy black woman is my favorite on the old floppy drive too. But the reason why it's important not to get discouraged is because the no's really teach you. How about no, says the sloth. Or this guy right here. If even cats are telling you no. So this is really like what the experience is like when you first do that, is you hear a whole bunch of no. Even Tracy Morgan's mad. I forget her name, but she's in Idiocracy. That's where I remember her from. Jack Nicholson saying no. So you're going to hear this like plethora of no's. And a lot of people at this point really give up in this whole process, but it's really, really key to be successful is to learn from the no's And so a lot of times what you'll find is when you're listening to people tell you no, they also tell you what they're stuck on and what they need. And like, for example, people say, oh, I know I need to email, but I have no idea what to say, right? Well, one of the things, like, then when we hear something like that, we turn around and add to our program like email templates. So you don't have to write it all yourself, right? So it would make it quick and easy for you, already pre-written things that work. So when you hear these no's, the key to getting through this process is to, every time you hear a no, is to look for a way you could better improve your offer to actually help those people. Now that sounds like not what most people are doing in marketing. They're looking for a better copy or the secret headline that's going to convince them. But the actual key is just to keep improving what you sell, so that every time you make that offer, it gets more powerful. And so you're being the Tom Cruise here. You're being the Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. By the way, this whole presentation is gifts, if you haven't noticed yet. And eventually you will get through that phase, and you will get to somebody who's like, yes, and they pay you, and you'll be all excited, and you'll be like, this guy in your high ticket funnel's working, and you'll be like Will Ferrell jumping around, maybe even a little bit of this, because you'll see that it's working. And eventually your reaction to that will tame, and it'll become a lot more about helping the people and getting the top-notch results for people who go through your program, because you'll just get used to yeses, just like you got used to no's in the beginning. And you'll see that as you get into this more, is that the problems people are stuck on, especially high ticket problems that are usually like complex, because if you're helping people in a high ticket way, you're usually solving a high ticket problem, and they're complicated and they're not easy for people to solve. And often I've learned that they are literally praying for you. They're that what's going on in their life, they're asking for a miracle, and you get to be the one to help them through that. So, God, if you listening, help me, right? But in a very more serious way. And so, it develops like a real deep compassion for you. And you'll just want to help people, like Canadian help like this, by the way. As a Canadian, I can make that joke. And see what you do as really being a superhero. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of just everything we talked about, because that was a lot. I know I opened the fire hose, but before you begin and write a single word, is find out what they really want. If you don't do this, you're basically doomed before you start. If you start like 99% of people do, which is you create something for sale and then you try and figure out how to sell it to people, you're doing it backwards, because sometimes even small differences make a giant difference. For example, when I did this in my last market, the lawyer space, is I found they wanted more of the right types of clients. And if you just did what I did originally, which is to say, hey, I'll help you get more clients, there's resistance in that, because when you find out they want the right types of clients and they're not all created equal, it makes a great deal of difference. So subtle things like that can really change the success of your offer. And so you can't do anything until you find out what they really want. And that requires like really going in and listening to people. Then obviously you need a landing page, and the secret to the landing page is really give away something that's actually helpful. Like, people are looking for way too many marketing tricks or gimmicks. If you give away something that's actually useful to a certain type of person, they'll have it. Then I recommended, having some sort of giveaway. Ours is a 39-minute video. They work. And the video really focuses on two things, which is proving that, what I'm saying in that video actually works, as well as shifting paradigms and moving unhelpful assumptions. Because somebody's stuck on a problem, they're carrying around unhelpful assumptions that they wholeheartedly believe are true, but as the solution provider or not. And then, for the long term, like, follow up with these people daily and be 100% you, because if people are going to work with you and they're not going to be the perfect fit, you'd rather them have them find out in an email. You want loyal, diehard fans, and be willing to sacrifice. So like I mentioned, we have high unsubscribe rates, but we also have really high amount of people who actually book calls with us. And then when you actually get to the calls, nobody talks about this, but I wanted to share this with you. At least this is my journey, and most of the people I know, is you're going to hear no before yes. It's normal. The key to getting through this is to learn from every call and just keep improving your offer. Every time you hear like a no, look at what that person really need and think about, how can I make my offer even better for, especially when you're on the phone with the right people, when you're talking to somebody, you're like, that's totally the right person. Even if you didn't sell them, replay, like, what could I have improved? How could I have made that better? How could I have made that more of a slam dunk for them? And eventually what you'll find is it'll be second nature to you. And then the last thing is, a lot of times people measure all the wrong things. They're looking at how many likes or the landing page metrics and I showed you all our metrics, but this is the number one metric that I look for is, are the right people coming through on the other end? And if you focus on that, what you'll find is everything else seems to really just fall into place. So that's kind of it. That's our high ticket funnel in a nutshell. And by the way, if you're interested in what we do, if you found yourself listening saying that's me, in the sense of like, um, you're doing something right now that is generating money for you, either through a job or your own business, but it's not really deeply fulfilling, and you want, like, not just to make more money, but to do it in a way where you really feel proud of what you're doing, and it's something you know when you leave this earth, you'll go, I made this planet a better place. If you're interested in that, then you should actually register for this free training. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff, because we're happy to have you. So I hope this is really useful. If I left anything out, you have any questions or whatever, just post them below, and I'll respond as quick as I can.